bastos kayo. Hindi mo lang kayo magpaalam sa amin. Kaming may-ari ng airport. Ninoy Aquino International Airport Authority. Pero wala kaming authority sa inyo na papasok sa airport namin.
At yun na nga no, mga kabayan, hindi na nga napigilan ni Senator Bato de la Rosa ang magalit dito nga sa mga Amerikano dahil sa balagbag na paglanding nila sa Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Bantakidulo naman mga kabayan, lumapag sila sa airport nang wala man lang abiso sa ground control. Kaya naman nagkaaberya ang NAIA. Maraming mga flights na naman ang na-offload at marami naman tayo mga kababayan ang na-move ang mga flight dahil nga dito sa kagagawan ng mga Amerikano. Feeling mga pa-importante to kasi itong mga kanon na to simula nung naaprubahan na nga ang EDCA. Akala nila kung sino sila makalapag man lang kahit saan nila gustuhin. Kaya naman kahit sino magagalit sa kanila kung laging ganyan ang kanilang mga gagawin. Kaya naman tinutukan na nga sa hearing dito sa Senado kung paano nga masusolusyonan ang kagaspangan ng mga ugali nitong mga Amerikanong to. Sa tingin mga bayan, dapat lamang bang maban itong pilotong to na naglanding sa NAIA nang wala man lang paalam? Comment mo nga sa baba at huwag mo nga kalimutan i-hit ang like at subscribe button para updated ka sa mga uploads ko araw-araw. Kabayan, panoorin natin ang kabuuan ng video ito.
Kilala nyo yung handler na yun?
Your Honor, there's si US government, sir, meron silang usual handler which
Kaya nga,
is
kilala nyo. Pilipino rin yun, Pilipino.
Yes po, opo.
Oh, so pwede ba yung i-ban yun dyan sa NAIA, yung mga handler na yun? Huwag nyo papasukin, mga bastos kayo. Hindi mo lang kayo magpaalam sa amin. Kaming may-ari ng airport. Ninoy Aquino International Airport Authority. Pero wala kaming authority sa inyo na papasok sa airport namin. Sabihan nyo yung i-ban ninyo. Hindi porque you are catering to the US Embassy, wala na kaming authority na mag-impose sa aming authority dito sa airport. Sabihan nyo, banin nyo yan, hanapin nyo yung mga handler na yun. Huwag na nyo papasukin dyan sa airport.
Yes, Your Honor.
It creates confusion. Simple, maliit lang na bagay yan na walang coordination. Pero hindi nyo alam, binabastos kayo ng mga tao na yun, hindi mo lang nagpaalam sa inyo, kayong authority ng airport. Dapat ipa-coordinate sa inyo, hindi porque mga Amerikano yung kanilang mga siniservisyuhan. Basta-basta na lang kayong binabaliwala yung authority nyo sa airport. Mag-coordinate sila, di ba? O, yun lang, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator De La Rosa. Yeah, we take very seriously this incident, and I think it's quite unnecessary because, as it turns out, it appears to have been a VFA exercise that had been previously agreed upon, pero paulit-ulit na nangyayari. Bakit hindi nasasabihan? So clearly, the procedure is not in place. Okay, you have all the diplomatic clearances as well as the CAAP clearances, pero naaalarma pa rin ang mga tao sa iba't ibang probinsya kung saan naglalanding. Sino ba ang dapat na magsabi? Di ba dapat CAAP? Di ba kayo in charge ng lahat ng airport? Kasi miski sa lawag na gulat din yung mga tao na may nagdadatingan, hindi pa nakatatak na US Air Force yung aeroplano kasi subcontractor lang yung pinadala. So, paulit-ulit to. We know there are 500 exercises per year. So, paulit-ulit. How do we make sure na hindi naaalarma ang mga tao at alam nila na aabisuhan yung mga airport sa ibaba?
Ma'am, as far as our airports are concerned, as I said kanina, alam lahat nila yung flights na pupunta ron because we issue the clearances.
Hindi nga di ba? Sabi nga ng ground handler, hindi alam.
Yun ho ang problema. We are not in touch with the ground handler, but it is the country of origin. Sila ho ang US Air Force ho, kunyari, sila ho ang may contract sa agency.
So ang sinasabi mo, hindi ang NAIA, hindi ang CAAP, kundi yung US Air Force ang hindi nagsabi sa ground handler nila?
Yes, ma'am. Sila yung may contract doon sa ground handler.
DND. Any comment, please?
May problema tayo dyan, ma'am. Visiting Process Agreement. Ayusin nyo yan. Ayusin nyo yan.
Kayo na ngayon ang tinuturo. Kayo daw ang dapat mag-inform. Paano ba ito? Huwag tayong ganito. Dapat i-sort out natin. Nandito kami para tumulong. At the end of the day, every Senate inquiry is in aid of legislation. That is in that case, it's prospective, always in character. Gusto natin na hindi na maulit itong mga bulilyasong ganito at natataranta yung mga tauhan natin. Yung mamaya nagugulanta at kinakabahan kung sino-sino dumarating. So, paano natin maiiwasan to sa mga susunod pang exercise? Alam natin, napakarami nito eh. Yes, Asek Gonzaga, please.
Ma'am, good. If I may, well, I see two things. One is on. If I can just go back to what Captain Tamayo was saying earlier, the ground handler is the one who is supposed to coordinate with the airport. So it's not the airports that should coordinate with the ground handler. So the ground handler should coordinate with the airport, and obviously the ground handler needs to be informed by the contractor, by the US.
Teka, you have to take me through this na naman. Nalito na naman ako. Alin mauuna? Kasi there's clearly a lack of coordination between DND, DFA, and the CAAP, and as well as the Americans. No? So you are now saying that it's the duty of the US to tell their ground handler, what comes first muna?
Opo.
Ipaliwanag mo yung procedure para nasusundan namin.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Now, there are two things basically here. One is the diplomatic clearance side, which I think everyone is agreed in this particular case, and I would like to believe in all cases, is fully coordinated among the relevant agencies. So that's DFA, CAAP, DND, AFP, and the U.S. Embassy, which is the one that initiates the request. Now, the problem in the C-17 case, and which might be the problem also in the other cases that you say took place, is the coordination between the ground handler and the particular airport in which they are going to land. Because once the diplomatic clearance is issued, then the coordination at the policy offices is over. It's now operationally between the ground handler and the airport where the airplane is going to land. And that's what the problem was in the C-17 po.
The ground handler is supposed to be informed by the U.S. Air Force. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we have no duty to do the same, even if we're fully aware that such a landing is going to occur?
I don't think so po. Yeah.
Can we clarify? Yes, CAAP. Tama ba yun? Kasi
Ma'am, it is...
bahala na yung ground handler. Siya lang ang magsasabi. Yung ground handler lang at saka yung US Air Force ang mag-uusap. Sila nang bahala. Inform the airport.
Ma'am,
Pali yata yun. Anong papel ng Pilipino doon? Atin pa rin ang airport. Sabi nga ni Senator De La Rosa.
Ma'am, as far as the ground handler is concerned, they are the ones who have a contract with the U.S. authorities.
Sila mag-uusap. Pero yung
Yes,
airport atin eh.
The airport is ours, pero yung ground handler nga ang dapat magpag-coordinate do sa airport itself, like what happened to Mia.
But how does the airport know that it was cleared or not? Dapat nagsabi rin kayo, di ba? Para alam ng airport na authorized yung landing na yon.
As I said nga kanina, ma'am, the information given to us by DND and DFA is exclusively for us, and it is not shared among the others. And I think that was confirmed by Mia as
pag
well.
nagtanong yung airport, totoo ba to? Cleared ba to? Kanino sila magtatanong? Yung airport. Sinabihan ng ground handler yung airport. Yung airport, hindi alam kung totoo, hindi. At tama naman, i-confirm niya. Kanino niya dapat i-confirm?
Madam Chair, I would assume that, I don't know, maybe our colleague from MIA can explain. I would assume they would have the paperwork that would be necessary for MIA to grant the slots and everything. Sir?
Your Honor, if I may. You're correct that in this case, they were able to get a landing permit from the CAAP. So that's the first step. So when I say they, these are the aircraft operator or the aircraft owner. And in this case, it's the US military po. So the next step would have been for them to coordinate with their local ground handler dito. And that local ground handler will submit the requirements to MIAA. Kasama po dito sa requirements natin is a permit to operate non-scheduled flight operations. And kasama po dun sa required attachment natin yung mga permit na in-issue ng CAAP po. But in this case po, dumating po yung aircraft without any ground handler coordinating with us. Kaya po doon tayo nagka-problem. It's between, it's the aircraft owner or operator that has not coordinated with the ground handler, and the ground handler did not coordinate po with MIAA in this case po.
So, Madam Chair, para itong ang NAIA, may-ari ng bahay. Itong CAAP, DND, mga kapitbahay ng NAIA. Ngayon, meron silang bisita, itong mga Amerikano na darating na pupunta sa bahay ng NAIA. Ngayon, the sad reality is that kayong lahat, okay kayo na bibisita yung bisita nyo dito sa ating lugar, particularly sa bahay ng NAIA. Ang may-ari ng bahay hindi alam na mayroon palang bisita na darating doon sa kanila. Simple, ba? Binisaya na explanation ba? Di ba? Oo. Dapat yung may-ari ng bahay, sabihan ninyo na mayroong darating kaming bisita, imbitado, para yung may-ari ng bahay makapag-prepare. Makapanglinis, makaprepare ng pagkain para ma-welcome yung bisita, di ba? Hindi yung maggulat na lang yung may-ari ng bahay. Ngayon, biniblame ninyo yung handler, yung ground handler ng aircraft, ng US aircraft. Sila biniblame na hindi nag-coordinate sa kanila. So, dapat mga ahensya ng gobyerno, let us coordinate with each other para maiwasan yung mga ganyan.
Oo, hindi ba pwedeng sabihan din yung airport ng KAP, DFA at DND? Tatlo na kayo, siguro naman isa sa inyo pwedeng tumimbre sa airport diretso. Yes, Yusek Ramwanga. I'd also like to recognize the representative of NSC, Deputy Director General Erico, as well as Yusek Madriaga of DND who just caught up. Yes, Yusek Ramwanga.
Ma'am, the clearance system all starts with the U.S. Embassy requesting DFA. There is a unit in DFA that issues permit clearances. This is the Intelligence and Security Unit. Pag na-clear na nila, ikakascade nila yung mga yung mga clearance sa DND, sa AFP, sa KAP.
Tapos hihinto ron, hindi aabot sa airport, dun sa bahay ng may-ari.
Hindi, we should recognize yung role also ng yung handler. Just like in Subic, meron silang tinatawag na husbanding agent. Dito sa airport, tinatawag nilang ground handler yon. In this case, sa airport, yung ground handler nila is Aegis, Aegis.
Aegis is the US Air Force handler, right?
Oh, yes ma'am. And ang binabayaran nito ng US Embassy. Ang trabaho nila is to make coordination. Kung sa Subic, yung husbanding agent will coordinate. Dito, yung Aegis will coordinate with the authorities already here at the local airport. Makikita natin
Yusek, right there, tamang-tama yung sinabi ninyo na galing sa US Embassy. The US Embassy admitted that due to a clerical error, some information provided for the flight RCH-192 clearance was incorrect. May we verify this with KAP? Kasi ang US Embassy sabi, talagang mali yung information na binigay ng US. Admitido po nila na may mga mali doon.
Ma'am, we're not aware of any of these errors by the U.S. Embassy, except perhaps the absence of coordination with their ground handler. Because everything that we have
They
is
admitted
in order.
correct information because they had incomplete information themselves. That was what was provided to me.
I'm sorry, ma'am, we are not aware of the information that
So,
was in error.
supposed to be the ground handler of this flight, the RCH-192, Aegis din, di ba? Totoo ba naglanding sa maling airstrip? Kasi ang pagkasabi ng American Embassy, miski yung lugar daw, mali-mali.
If I may, ma'am, as far as the airport is concerned, tama po lahat. They departed Guam, and then the flight plan, which is here, landed Manila at a certain time. Ang nagka-problema lang kung saan sila magpa-park. Because, kasi yung Aegis is located
Yes.
at Palagba.
So, it's the parking.
It's the parking ang mali.
Okay.
So we had no choice kasi nakakaharang siya but to have the aircraft taxi towards the
Tama. Kasi ang
remote.
tagal-tagal niya nakaharap dun
remote.
eh.
Oo.
Okay. Anyway, balikan lang natin si Manila International Airport. Who was supposed to be the ground handler? The usual Aegis.
Your Honor, in this case, nung dumating pa yung flight, but since we were not aware po, our ramp controllers were not aware na parating tong flight, we, by default, we tried to contact yung usual handler nila, which is Aegis Aviation. Pero nung kinontak namin sila while they're still waiting for their usual parking slot, Aegis said na parang walang advice po sa kanila. So that's why...
So, hindi alam ng
ground handler po in the initial instance.
Ba yan?
So, ang nangyari po, ma'am, the aircraft, as said by Captain Tamayo, so that hindi po mag-traffic ang... kasi kung saan siya nakaparada, this is the taxiway going to T3.
Pero nagtataka rin ako, ewan ko Senator Bato, pag nangyayari ito, you have an alien aircraft landing, ine-embargo yung aircraft at ina-aresto lahat ng laman, di ba? Lahat ng tao nasa loob, di ba? Hinihinto lahat yan kasi walang abiso.
Yes, Madam Chair, hindi naman ito hahantong sa ganun dahil meron naman silang mga general rule.
As a general rule, if you have an aircraft that lands surreptitiously and without any notice, talaga naman na ihaharang yan.
Kaya nga nagkagulo, hindi nagkaintindihan, di ba?
Ang Yes, you were saying.
Yes, Your Honor. The aircraft landed, pero wala...
Yung ground handler didn't know.
Did not know po.
About the flight.
That's why our first protocol was to reposition the aircraft to another remote location. Kaya yun na po yung sinasabi po siguro ng US Embassy na nagpark sila sa ibang lugar from their usual place of parking doon po sa may Balagbag, which is near our maintenance hangar. So, nilipat po sila sa RPA or Remote Bay number 24 at doon na sila nagtagal ng almost 10 hours. And at around 2 o'clock, tsaka po sinabihan kami ng Aegis Aviation that they were already advised by the US government to handle this flight.
Yung Aegis din.
Opo, yung Aegis din po.
Tulad nga ng sinabi ni Senator De La Rosa kanina, is it the fault of the ground handler? And if so, can we sanction him? Kasalanan ba ng ground handler? Ba't hindi niya alam ang nangyayari? Kaninong kasalanan to?
Ma'am, in this case po, it's we cannot ascertain if it's the ground handler that nagkamali na hindi tayo na-inform or baka hindi rin siya na-inform ng aircraft owner, which is the US government.
In that case, Madam Chair, I would like to take back my earlier statement advising NAIA to ban that handler from the airport dahil unfair naman sa kanila na hindi pala sinasabihin ng mga Amerikano ang details, hindi na alam, tapos sila ngayon ang ipopult natin. Ipopult natin yung mga Amerikano. Sila may kasalanan, wala tayong magawa sa kanila. Pero yung handler na Pilipino, I would like to take back my statement, kawawa naman. Maliit na negosyo lang yun, tapos sabihin pa nila, pag-initan natin. So, okay na, papapasukin mo ulit. Okay na. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hindi, ang tanong na lang dito, pwede ba yun? Hindi sinabihan ng US ang sarili lang handler. So, sino may kasalanan? Kasi hindi dapat maulit to. Kaya tayo nag-hearing to avoid the repetition of these errors. So, how do we ascertain that the correct information will be provided in a timely fashion to all parties concerned? I understand the requirement for confidentiality, pero sa kabila nun, dapat nagtitimbrehan naman tayo sa isa't isa. Dahil napakarami nito 500 exercises, isipin natin pabalik-balik ang eroplano niyan. Laging nagugulat yung mga airport. So, Ase Gonzaga, they're now saying that it's the US Air Force that should have told their own ground handler. And they didn't. So sisitahin ba natin ang US Air Force? Meron ba tayong kakayahan nun?
Ma'am, thank you, Madam
O yung
Chair.
mga VFA, kayo ang mananagot nito.
If I could just quickly say that 2 points po. One is, yes, we have already called the attention of the U.S. Embassy to this, and they have provided us assurances that they will try as much as possible not to make this happen again. I don't think anyone is in a position to say it's absolutely never going to happen again, but we definitely will be more vigilant in terms of monitoring and vetting all of these requests. Secondly po, I think we see the point that there's probably a need maybe in particular for military flights, to ensure that the relevant airport authority is given advance notice. So we'll discuss that po in the context of the Presidential Commission on Visiting Forces, and see if there are things we can do at least administratively on our side without having to change legislation. But if we find out,
Legislation required is just the procedure.
yes ma'am.
Para lang maging maayos, para hindi nagkakagulatan. So we want to make sure that these errors are avoided at hindi nagkakagulo sa NAIA, causing grave alarm for everyone and stopping traffic basically. Hanggang nahila yung eroplano dun sa mas malayong lugar. So, how do we increase the monitoring also of the foreign military planes in this country? We should be better advised, no? At yung coordination siguro with the local airports is necessary. And the last few military aircraft from the U.S., both contracted and official U.S. Air Force, stopped in Manila on their way to Palawan, no? Or on their way to somewhere else. Is this absolutely necessary because of the quarantine, customs, and other requisites? Or can we do all of that at their final destination? We already know that NAIA is overburdened and under... and has so much traffic. There's a long waiting period. Pwede bang gawin na itong kuan? Total may VFA naman talaga. Hindi ba pwedeng gawin na itong yung tinatawag natin na yung ating requisites for CIQ? Yung customs, immigration, and quarantine. Can the CIQ be done at the final destination para wala nang gulo?
Yeah, we'll discuss that also, Madam Chair, and if to the extent that it would be possible to readjust, we will do so po.
Yes, we're very familiar with the EDCA sites already and the VFA sites. Baka naman pwede na doon. Like, it's being conducted in Lawag, right? There's CIQ in Lawag. That's clear. So, why is it not possible to do it there? Why do they have to stop in Manila International? It's also confusing because we don't know what their true and final destination. Aside from the 3 military aircraft that landed in the country last July, how many more up to the present have been landing? Are we monitoring them at all? I mean, these are all past flights. If truth be told, it's no longer confidential.
Madam Chair, I don't have the figures with me right now, but our as Yusek Rambuanga was explaining, our intelligence and security unit should have the statistics in terms of the number of flights.
Yes, could we request, because we have more and more foreign exercises, including Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and the rest. Their airplanes are also seen coming in and out of our airports. Is it possible to get a list just to make sure that we're all forewarned of all these travels? Meron listahan? Oh, yes po.
Yes, Madam Chair. Deputy Director General Jericho of NSC. As a former member of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we do monitor the flights from the different countries, specifically that does military exercises at the AFP level. At the AFP command center level, we monitor it on a daily basis, Madam Chair.
Yes, not that you have to share all this information with us, but simply because it appears that many local airports do not seem aware of what's going on.
Yes, Madam Chair. We could also extend the information for the benefit of the local airport. But we were discussing earlier, for your question, if it is possible to conduct the CIQ. I believe it is possible to conduct on the international airport. But for some other airport that is not classified as international airport, which we don't have the agencies of the customs and immigrations and quarantine, they have to come into a port of entry for the conduct of CIQ, then to the other destination. Just like when we go abroad, Madam Chair, we have to be in a port of entry, then we could move in intercontinental, Madam Chair. So I believe it could be possible, Mr.
Yes,
Madam.
I think it's possible given that this is going to be fairly frequent and we already know the sites. We know they'll be in Palawan. We know they'll be in Cagayan and Isabela. We know where it's going to happen. And you presumably have earlier knowledge. So we can organize a little bit better para hindi magulo. Yes, Yusek Ramwanga.
Ma'am, this Omnibus Implementing Rules and Regulation has been in existence for 8 years already. And all the, from pre-entry, entry, on-site, departure, lahat nandito eh. If the offices described here will just do their part, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng problema. Nandito yan eh.
Yes, sir. Then who is not doing his part? Right now, as we speak. Who is not doing his part? What particular agency? Kaya andito tayo ngayon to correct. I-correct natin. O, to improve it. Di ba, Madam Chair? Oo. So, ano sir, mayroon kang alam na hindi nagagawa ng kanyang trabaho sa agencies concerned?
May I say something, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yusek
Madam
Espino wants to
Chair,
interject, yes.
Good afternoon po. To avoid future confusion, we will probably request JUSMAG to strengthen their coordinations with other agencies because as process is concerned, everybody in the department follow the process from the receipt of the request up to the time the diplomatic clearance is given. We follow the process, but in the ground level, there was poor coordination. So we will coordinate with JUSMAG to strengthen the coordinations with other agencies of, especially
Yes,
now that we have plenty of military aircrafts arriving in the country.
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, wala man tayong problema sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno. Lahat mga coordinated, alam nila. Ang problema ngayon doon nga sa ground handler, which is not a government agency. Ngayon, itong ground handler na ito, sabi nga ng MIA din na hindi rin nabigyan ng impormasyon. So may kasalanan talaga ito, yung Amerikano, yung US Air Force or whatever sila kasi hindi nila inupormahan yung ground handler. Now, maintindihan rin natin na since itong ground handler is not security classified na tao dahil mga civilian ito, baka kulang rin ng tiwala yung mga Amerikano. Nasabihan kagad sila dahil alam nila ang China nagmomonitor sa movement ng American military aircraft. So yun, diyan nangyari ang bottleneck ngayon. Nag-iingat sila, that caused the problem. So maintindihan rin natin ang Amerikano. Being our ally, maintindihan natin sila na they exercise maximum confidentiality in all their movements. Kaya hindi sila nagsabi doon sa civilian ground handler, baka mag-leak at malaman na naman ng China. Yung pag-resupply nga natin ng pagkain sa mga marines natin sa BRP Sierra Madre, alam nga ng China eh. Kaya mag-iingat rin tayo. Diba? So, yun lang, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yes, salamat. Pero I just wanted to cite kay Yusef Ramwanga, no? Ito nga, may mga rules na dapat i-comply, no? At eto nga, there's the issue here, I think, General Erico. Eto nga yung problema. Kasi hindi naman final destination yung NAIA. It wasn't the final destination. Puerto Princesa was the final destination. Kaya siguro yung sinabihan, yung final, hindi yung hihintuan. Pero we do have in our rules, as it turns out, the Section 518.3, entry and departure of foreign military aircraft and or vessels shall be made only at international or designated airports and seaports. Pero pwede talaga basta na designate, mutually designated, where proper CIQ inspection can be conducted. So I think that's the concern. Perhaps the transit CIQ was not relayed to either NAIA or the ground handler, but the final destination they were aware was Puerto Princesa. So let's try and figure this out kasi this requires a great deal of coordination and we don't want this to be repeated. Yes, Mr. Ko.
Yes, Madam Chair. We would like to share also, of course, together with KAAP, we informed that if we could possibly hold the port of entry and exit of these exercises instead of Manila, maybe pag-aralan kung pwedeng sa Clark, because as you've mentioned, Manila is already a very congested airport, and ang pagdating nila at any time of the day and sometimes during the peak hours really affect our commercial operation. So if it can be considered also, if walang international port of entry sa final destination, baka pwede pong instead of Manila na sobrang ng congested, we can consider Clark po.
There are other alternatives.